Most of the organisations I work with seem to be obsessed with the top of the funnel: ads, social media, SEO, the next campaign, the next traffic spike. The marketing team has dashboards full of acquisition metrics, and the design team usually gets drafted in to support their efforts. New landing pages, better hero sections, smoother sign-up flows. That's all well and good as far as it goes, and I've written an entire email course on campaign landing pages because I genuinely believe most of them are leaking conversions like a colander. But it does mean something important keeps getting ignored. Most organisations don't seem to have a coherent strategy at all for retention and upselling. They pour effort into getting new customers through the door, then more or less forget about them once they're inside. And this is strange when you think about it, because the economics of retention have been well known for years. Acquiring a new customer typically costs 5 times more than keeping an existing one, and cross-selling or upselling to an existing customer costs roughly 24% of what it would take to win the same revenue from a new one. You don't need to convince someone who's already bought from you once. You just have to not screw it up when they are with you. So, why does retention keep slipping through? In my experience, it's because nobody really owns it. Every other part of the customer journey has a clear home. Acquisition belongs to marketing, onboarding sits in product, support lives in customer success, and renewals end up with sales. But retention kind of falls between the gaps of all of these, which is a polite way of saying it falls to the floor. This is where I think UX has a genuine opportunity, not just to help with retention, but to own it, to plant our flag and say this is our patch. I know that sounds like more work for a profession that's already overstretched, but hear me out. UX has a chronic problem with how it's perceived inside organisations. We're seen as the people who make screens look nice, helpful, but not particularly strategic. The reason for this perception is partly our own fault. We've spent years talking about the user when senior leadership are thinking about revenue. Nobody at the top of an organisation wakes up worrying about whether the user's mental model is being matched in the interface, but they do worry about lifetime customer value. They worry about monthly recurring revenue. They worry, sometimes very loudly, about churn going in the wrong direction. And yet, plenty of businesses worry about those numbers without ever actively tracking them. Nobody is responsible for measuring them, so they sit in the background as a vague anxiety rather than a managed metric. If the UX team picks up that responsibility and starts tying their work to those numbers, our standing inside the business could change dramatically. We'll stop being seen as screen prettifiers, if that's a word, but rather as the team who protects revenue. That's a very different conversation to have with your CFO. The other reason retention is such a good fit for UX is that the levers are largely ours already. Customers usually leave because something in the experience disappoints them. They couldn't find what they needed. The product didn't deliver what they expected. Support was a maze, or the onboarding fizzled out before the value really clicked in their heads. Every one of these is a UX problem dressed up as a business problem. The same goes for upselling. Customers buy more from companies that have nurtured them properly, where the experience has been built over time to build trust. You can't just bolt on a clever email campaign 3 months in. It has to be designed from the outset. So what does all of this look like in practice? Well, a starting point for you might be to change your KPIs. If you're still reporting on task completion rates or system usability scores, you're speaking a language that business doesn't really care about. Pick 1 or 2 retention metrics and put them at the top of your dashboard. Any of these work: churn rate, repeat purchase rate, lifetime customer value, that kind of thing. Second, audit the post-purchase experience. Most organisations have spent years polishing what happens before the credit card comes out and almost no time on what happens afterwards. That's where there are easy wins in things like onboarding, the first month of use, the renewal flow, the upgrade prompts, that kind of thing. And then finally, get involved in cross-functional work. Retention sits across teams, so if you wait for someone to invite you to the retention conversation, you're going to be waiting a long time because nobody really owns it. Volunteer for the onboarding redesign. Sit in on the customer success reviews. Make yourself useful where the conversations are actually happening. Acquisition is always going to be the glamorous one. There is a reason it gets the budget and the attention, but it's also crowded. Marketers, performance specialists, growth teams, ad platforms, they already own a piece of it. Retention, on the other hand, is just sitting there, largely unclaimed, and it happens to be one where the long-term revenue value really actually exists. And this is where we should be planting our flag as UX professionals.